Hey, my name is Brent here on Cloudy with the Chance of Meeples. Welcome to Ideas, a time where we sit down with publishers, designers, illustrators in the board gaming hobby and find out how they got their ideas from just ideas to the games that we love to play. And I believe that community is built on conversation, just like games are built on ideas. And today we have a designer, and his name is Jason Mowery, and he is the designer of the perfect wave and the big score. Correct in that regard?
That is correct, and I'll say I'm the co-designer of both.
Co-designer. Okay.
And so shout out to Chase Williams, who was the co-designer on both of those games with me.
Okay. And I want to talk about co-designing games a little bit
Yeah.
later. But
Mhm.
how are you doing today?
I'm great. I've been
Yeah,
looking forward to this. Thanks for having me on.
no problem. I've been looking forward to this as well. We kind of like ping pong back and forth for like
Yeah.
a few weeks or
Yeah,
months,
it's
and that's
yeah.
all right. You're a busy guy. And but let's talk about these games. I'm looking at your shelf and I'm like, wow, you have a nice collection. What was gaming for you growing up? Like, have you always been big into gaming, or it was it kind of like in your adult life, or what's
I
your backstory?
I remember, grow up in a household that always had games around. I remember playing, you know, like Clue and Parcheesi and the kind of
Mm,
just stuff. Nothing like super in the hobby. Um, I remember when I played Scotland Yard for the
mm,
first time. That was when I was sort of like, oh, this is something different because of the hidden movement
right.
mechanism, and to this day, it's still one of my favorite mechanisms. I love almost every hidden movement game out there.
Hmm.
I got really big into chess when I was in middle school
Hmm.
and played on like the chess team, and just still love playing chess. And I had a art and music teacher when I was in middle school. His name is Rich Liedeke, and if he sees
Okay.
this, shout out to Rich. I've thanked
Hmm.
him many times for this, but he did an after school program called Mystery Club,
Okay.
and it's to this day one of the most fun things I've ever got to do. I mean, as a kid, it was amazing. We would stay after school, and it was all about Sherlock Holmes mystery, crime solving kind of stuff. We would watch movies that were themed that way. We would read stories that were themed that way. We'd play lots of games, consulting detective, and like
Mm-hmm.
I can't even remember some of the other ones that we played, but he might have been one of the first guys to ever think about an escape room. He when we walked into class one day, he was like, surprise, you all have just walked into the scene of a crime, a murder, or whatever, and you had to walk around the classroom and kind of like look for clues and figure out
Mm.
who done it, and read testimony from witnesses that were on the kind of they're pasted on the wall. And I just have so many fond memories of him doing that club, and that really got me hooked into gaming.
As you say that, I'm reminded of, I think it was a grade 2 or grade 3 for me. And I often think about this myself, like when did I get into gaming and whatnot? But I remember my grade 2, 3 school teacher had the game Labyrinth.
Yeah,
And I
with
remember
the
that
the,
as
the
a
shifting tiles.
yeah, that you slide.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
remember having that or playing that in school
yeah,
and then never again. Like I just forgot about the game. And
yeah,
then when I got back into gaming, in my adult life, I was
yeah,
like, that was the game. Like I remember I saw it and I was like, that was the game that I played back in like grade 2 and
yeah,
3.
yeah,
And so it's kind of cool that you have a similar, I guess, story of like,
yeah,
a teacher kind of brought these hobby games almost as if they were like ahead of their time in the sense of
yeah, for
of
sure.
you know what I mean?
I mean,
Um,
what Rich Liedeke did for us kids with Mystery Club is like it was a complete labor of love, and he was way ahead of his time as far as it was just such a unique thing, and like I've seen him and spoken to him multiple times over the years, and every time I thank him so much because it's such great memories, and here I am in the gaming world, and
mhm,
had he not done any of that, that might not have happened. So.
very cool. What are you playing these days?
I actually have them right here. My girlfriend and I play a lot of two-player only games,
I see Mr.
and
Jack. I see you have Mr. Jack
yep, Yeah, both the
your
pocket
left
and the
shoulder,
regular.
and
Yeah,
oh man, I love
yeah.
Mr. Jack. But anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
So actually, I'm just gonna show you.
Okay. Yep.
If you don't know this one,
I
Dracula
do
versus
not.
Van Helsing. It's 25th Century Games.
Hmm.
It's kind of like it's not a card game, but it does do its own unique sort of riff on trick taking,
Okay.
and adds like an element of something going on on a small board as well. And man, this you got to try this game. This game
Okay.
is like it is so unique that you won't have ever played anything like it. And as a matter of fact, you can try it on Board Game Arena for free.
BG.
So
Okay.
check that out. And then here's another one. This one
I'm
doesn't
excited.
have US distribution yet, but they're working on it, I believe, and
Okay.
it's on its way. Um, Once again, the mystery, crime solving
Right
theme,
on.
shocker. Intent to Kill is a deduction game, and it adds, it also does something very unique with deduction and kind of moving around a map and visiting different neighborhoods and questioning different people and doing all these kinds of these unique things. It's fantastic. So when it's available, check it out because it's
I'm
great.
I'm from
Yeah,
Canada, so it could be like forever
yeah,
and a day, but
yeah.
um we'll have to see.
I had a friend, my friend Byron got this for me when he went to Gen Con. It's the only reason I have a copy. So thank you, Byron.
Right on. Um you not only have like your gaming, I'm trying to wrap my mind around this question and how to segue, which was terribly done right now. But uh, for those that don't know, you do lots of music and touring and things like that. And then
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about games, but I do want to talk about music a little bit. But do you play games on the road? Like,
I
do
do.
you bring
Yeah.
games, and like some of the bands that you tour with, are they like, no, I don't want to play that? And you're like, come on, let me teach you this game. Or are they like, you kind of got like a little group when you go out on tour?
I would say I probably never leave the house without some games in my backpack or in my suitcase or in both. If especially if
Okay.
I know that we have like a day off, so because sometimes we'll do like a West Coast run or something like that.
Hmm.
And we'll be out for like a week or two or something, and but we'll have a day off, and those are like prime time, hotel lobby game kind of days. Yeah, there we do play games. I wouldn't say it's like anything super regular, like these are people who don't live in the world that we live in,
Right.
where it's just as many games as we can possibly play and learn and blah blah blah. But I always ease people into gaming. Yeah, I think one of my uh I think I have a good grasp on it's like when what's a sommelier when they pair a wine to
Okay. Yep.
a meal. I think I'm really good at pairing a game with the crowd, picking I know who is down to play. I know the game that we should play because
Right.
it'll hit the mark.
Hmm.
And so I've done that with my friends on the road, and I'll tell you what the best one of all time, the best first game you should always introduce
Mm.
to anyone for
For
sale.
sale.
Absolutely wins every time. I've never played that game with somebody and they didn't go, let's go again, let's play again.
Right.
And
And
so yeah, we do game on the road, and it's it's fun. It's fun to experience games with non-gamers
right.
as well, and see some of them be like, I had no idea games like this even existed.
Exist.
It's
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
The one I've been playing a lot, teaching people, it's actually from the op, which this might be a good segue. Flip 7.
Oh, I haven't played that yet. I'm curious. Yeah.
This is like the simplest. Like on BGG, it's actually rated lighter than Uno.
Oh wow,
I
that's
know,
hilarious.
I know. It's like blackjack. So there's numbers 1 through 12, and the
Yeah,
number like 12 12s 1 1. There's 1 0 card, but on your turn, it's just like you say hit me, and the dealer gives you a card. And if you have a
yeah,
double, you have 2 10s, you're out, you
yeah,
bust. But you're just pushing your luck, trying to get as many cards as you can of different values. And if you
yeah,
get 7, it ends the round. That's a flip 7. You get a 15-point bonus, but you can stop at any point, and then you just add the sum of your cards. You got a 5
nice.
6
Oh,
7.
cool. Yeah,
Add 5 6
okay.
7. That's your score, and
Yeah,
you
I
play
will. I
multiple
will.
rounds to
I
200.
will play that. I will play that one for
And you
sure.
can you
Yeah.
could play that, like it says in the thing, like if you have more than 18 people, get 2 decks. I'm like, I would never
Oh
play with
wow.
18 people. That's
Oh my God.
crazy. But
Yeah.
like, yeah. So, but speaking of the op, you have
Yep.
a
What was
game
that?
with the
Yeah.
op right
That's
here,
correct.
the perfect wave.
Oh yeah,
And
there it is.
let's dive into that. I will stop with these puns. Um, it's about surfing. Are you a big surfer? Are you an avid surfer?
I couldn't be. less of a surfer.
Okay.
It's funny that the co-designer and I, Chase, we live in landlocked Tennessee, and
Okay.
we designed a game about surfing. So no, I'm not a surfer. I've never even attempted to surf, and I'm sure if I did, it would be an absolute hilarious thing to try to watch. Um, the perfect wave is not a simulation. It's not supposed to be,
Mhm,
a theme that we're getting really down into like the nitty gritty of
mhm.
surfing. We want it to feel thematic, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's like you don't have to know anything about surfing to enjoy the perfect wave. But there's a couple little not Easter eggs, but there's plenty of stuff that people who, if they did surf, they will be like, oh, that's so cool that they put that in there, you know.
Mhm. So when you guys started designing this, did you say like, did you have mechanics first, or did you have, hey, let's make a game about surfing, or like how did that pair, or how did that work? Because
Yeah,
you didn't design a game that's intricately
yeah,
mechanics like surfing, like you're not replicating or simulating surfing. Like how did that
yeah.
how did that work?
It's a good question. It's kind of hard to explain. I tend to get ideas for game design, and also I'm a songwriter as well, and I get ideas for songs
Mhm.
in like in dreams sometimes, or in that sort of like middle stage of like I'm not quite sleeping and I'm not quite fully awake. And
Mhm.
I remember having a dream one time where I was sitting at a casino, blackjack table or whatever, and the dealer did that thing where they like fan out all the cards on the table, and
Mhm.
then they flip that first card, and it causes like everything,
Yeah.
and they were kind of doing that back and forth. And in my dream I'm going, oh, that's so cool. I wonder if that would be like a mechanism that I could use in a dexterity game.
Okay.
And I was like, well, what would the theme be for that? There's these cards kind of like, going back and forth, and I was like, oh, it's like a wave going
Mhm.
out and back. So I wake up and I'm like, oh, I definitely don't want to design a dexterity game. Like, I don't know why in my dream I thought I'm going to design a dexterity game. I don't really see myself ever designing a dexterity game, but I still was like, I was still thinking about like that sort of out and back thing, and I was like, okay, what about a wave, something, and that obviously leads to surfing, and I was like, maybe there's something about, you know, creating the wave that you're gonna surf, and you
Mhm.
have to kind of do that as well as you can because you're only gonna get to do it once,
Mhm.
the perfect wave, hopefully.
Mhm.
So yeah, started in a dream, and then it just kind of mutated a little bit.
How was working with Chase Williams? Because this was your second, right? Your original one was the big score. Um,
Yeah,
and
which I
let me back
hey
that
hey
up.
look hey look, yeah, it's
Hey,
right here.
nice, nice.
This,
Let's
this
actually
is
back that up
actually, oh, okay, yeah,
uh, uh, let's back that up a little bit before you answer that question. Like, how did you and Chase start designing? To be honest, like I just know of those two games that you guys did, so I don't
yeah.
know if actually Chase has done anything before that. But like, how did that friendship relationship, co-design ship, I just made up a word, like how
Co-design
did
ship.
that, yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
trademark it, that one right now.
we've been we've been friends for a long time, and we were in the same gaming group. We were at Gen Con one year, and we were talking about bank heist games, and we were
Mhm.
like, there's not a lot of bank heist games. There might be now, I don't know. But at the time, we were like just kind of talking about ideas of what we would like to see in a bank heist game. We weren't designers. We might have, maybe tinkered around with some things on our own, thinking about like designing a game or whatever. But it basically was like, oh, that would be really cool to have a bank heist game with these things in it. And then finally, we just wound up designing that game ourselves.
Mhm.
And it got published by Van Ryder Games. What's up, AJ Porfirio? Uh, so he's the head of Van Ryder
Van
Games.
Ryder, yeah.
And, yeah, so that was the start of us just having an idea and diving in and trying to figure out how co-designing works.
And how did that work? Did you kind of like, what would be your strengths and what would have been his strengths in these
Yeah.
two projects? Like how is that? Did you have any, like, not tension, but like be like, hey, you know what? I think really we should do this. And he's like, you know what? I really think we should do this. Like how was that?
I- right.
if at all. Like sometimes
Yeah, I
they're
think
just smooth, right?
in the first game we had to kind of figure out like, do we have strengths and weaknesses? And of course, you do figure those things out. He is much smarter than me and is really, really good at the math behind the curtain.
Mhm.
And so he's really great at like, balancing how many victory points should this be worth and
Mm.
whatever. He's really good at like, getting the spreadsheets fired up and making sure that the crunching the math behind the curtain is like on point.
Mhm.
And I would say my strength is a little more about the right brain, sort of the what's the player experience. Um, I've come up with a few unique mechanisms, I think, and I'm really good at sort of I think we had to learn that when we got an idea or when we had a version of the game in place, he would want to sort of like, that's the road we're on, we're doing this, and
Mm.
I would come
Mhm.
up with new ideas and I would be like, well, let's here's something that is definitely taking a right turn here. And I would want to throw that idea at the wall and just see like,
If
is
it
this
sticks.
yeah, does it stick? And I
Mhm.
think at the beginning there was a little bit of like, but that's like a different thing, and so, but a lot of times there was sort of a one step back, two steps forward
Forward.
outcome. And so
Mhm.
I think he started to appreciate that. And so when we got to the perfect wave, we were just relying on each other's strengths. Like I know
Mhm.
he's got a lot of the math just nailed down. And then when I would have new ideas, like, man, we gotta try this whole new thing I thought of. He's like, let's explore it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah.
So, do you remember? You may not know, remember this because it's been a few years since you designed Perfect Wave. But do you remember kind of like your breakthrough moment in the game where you guys were designing and all of a sudden it's just like something clicked? You're like, "Hey, this is what we're missing. This is
Yeah.
it. This is the thing." Like, or like, what was like the biggest hurdle that you guys had, or biggest
Well,
celebration, or however you want to phrase it?
sure. The thing that was like, aha, we have a game here and it's doing something that I haven't seen before. Um, was, in like I said, in the perfect wave, you create the wave that you're going to surf.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, different ways to create the wave and different ways to score and such. But you've got to have a surfer, right? And your
Right.
surfer needs to catch that wave and ultimately surf it back to the shore
Sure. Mm-hmm.
to score the points. And when we came upon the mechanism where you have to do two things, just like I would imagine actual surfing is, it's all about balance.
Mm-hmm.
And the balancing act of this game and what gives it its hook is that you have to know when to build your wave and you have to know when to paddle further out in the ocean, because you only get so many actions in this game and it goes
Mm-hmm.
by much quicker than most people expect.
I can
And
attest. I can attest to
yeah,
that.
yeah, your first play is always like, wow, the ending change. I wanted to do so much more.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
the hook is that you can always play cards above and to the right of your surfer anywhere that you want, but you'll only score cards above and to the left
Right.
of your surfer. So you can spend all of your actions creating a wave and playing trick cards and doing these things. But if you don't ever paddle out to actually catch that wave and score all that stuff, you're not going to score any points.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the inverse is true. If you're just paddling out and paddling out and paddling out and not doing any actually like creating the wave and planning tricks and stuff like that, then you paddled out to basically nothing.
Yeah.
So balance, balance, balance. That was when we got that mechanism. That's why we were like, this is worth uh, trying to take it all the way.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing that I like the most is the four public objectives that are out
Yeah.
there,
Hmm.
and there's only a possibility of two of them being triggered, and it's
Yeah.
up to the players to
Yeah.
trigger them or not trigger them. And you can trigger for yourself, hoping that you're going to get that 50 points. But if someone else is able to piggyback off that and score it themselves as well, that's a 50 points. Like that's quite big, right? And
Yeah.
so, but if you
Yeah.
wait too long to activate one, you may not have the chance to activate. So
Yeah.
I guess it kind of, I can't, it just everything is all about balance, I guess, even in that
Yeah.
regard in the game, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. To give the listeners or viewers or whatever a little bit more detail, the four goals are essentially not in play
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning of the game. You can read them, they're face up, but they're switched off, if you will.
Yeah.
And like you said, only two of them will be turned on, put in play. But when you do it, even if I do it, I make this one of the goals that is now in play, but it's in play for the entire table. And so you might do the thing that goal requires better than I do, and so I wasted in a turn,
And
putting
gave
it
me
in play.
points.
Yeah, so there's one of my favorite parts of the game, believe it or not, is the initial setup. There's public goals that, like we just explained, and then there's some private goals too, and you have to pick a private goal that will hopefully synergize the best with what you're seeing the public goals on the table, because ultimately in a perfect world, the perfect wave, you're going to set yourself up for, I'm going to be able to like nail any of these things. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what gets activated. I'm set up to
Yeah.
overlap with a whole bunch of them, and hopefully I'm not even the one that takes
Waste
the
their turn,
actions.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Right on. So let's just keep talking about creativity, and we're gonna switch a little bit to music because I'm a big music fan as well. But are there similarities in board game design and music? I don't want to say design, but like writing music and developing music. Like they're two kind of different worlds, but you're in both of them. You're still creating something. So
Yeah.
I guess the skinny of it is I'm saying that you're like freakishly creative and I'm not. Um, and like, do any of them like overlap at all? Like, do you is that even re- relatable in that sense? Or
I've
like,
been I've been asked this question before, and I don't think I have a good answer, because they're really, one does not make me better at the other. I
mhm.
really wish that writing songs made it easier to, come up with a brilliant game mechanism, and, designing the perfect wave made me write kick-ass songs. But I would love to have that sort of double edge on creativity. But I think the only similarities that I can really think of is when you sort of pull out to sort of a macro level, it ultimately comes down to like repeatedly asking yourself, what kind of experience do you want to provide? If I'm writing a song, am I trying to is it really complex melodically? Am I trying to really move somebody with some clever lyrics? Or do I just want an environment where it's more of a, radio, it's hooky, it's catchy, simple to learn, sing along with, everybody just wants to have a good time and, scream along with the song. Same thing with games. Are you trying to provide an environment where, people are sitting around for 2 hours in silence trying to, figure out their next crunchy turn? Or do I just want people like laughing and like, yelling at each other and rolling dice and trash talking? And it's like you just have to sort of like, is the thing I'm working on constantly taking me to that goal? And all those
Mhm.
goals are great things to shoot for, but I think it all boils down to, which one are you trying to do? Are you creating the environment that you are wanting to create?
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the
And
experience, I should say, the experience that you want to
right.
create.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So what are you working on these days? Are you working on anything these days? Are you still designing?
Yeah, I actually had a game, the we haven't talked about the Cardboard Edison Award, but that the Perfect Wave was
Right.
designed during the COVID, quarantine. It was
Hmm.
perfect time to design games, and Chase and I entered it into the 2021
Hmm.
Cardboard Edison Award contest, and it won, um, which was amazing.
Hmm.
And then in 23, I also entered a game called Fireworks Festival,
Okay.
which wound up being a finalist, along with Gnome Hollow, another OP successful,
Oh, yeah.
game. And that's available on Tabletop Simulator for those who like to play there. You can check it out. Designed a game called Round Robins, which is also available on Tabletop Simulator. It was sort of like, I thought it was a unique blend of the Mancala mechanism with a little light area control. And instead of moving, like stones or whatever around like Mancala, you actually are moving dice around, and then you
Okay.
eventually roll dice. So those are some other games that are out there. I definitely have some new ideas and things I'm always thinking about, but we'll see if any of those see the light of day.
And you know what? Let's talk about that. The award you won from the Perfect Wave originally, Light Bulb Edison or
Cardboard Edison Award. Yeah.
Cardboard Edison. Oh my word, I've been up too long. Anyways, what is that? Because actually I'd never heard of that
Oh, yeah.
until the Perfect Wave. So what exactly is that? Like, where, if someone's like, hey, I got some ideas, I got some prototypes at home sitting around. Hey, how can I enter my game into contest
Yeah.
XYZ? What is the Cardboard Edison, and like, how do
It's
you get involved with that?
it's fantastic. So I believe it's just cardboardedison.com, and
Okay.
they do all sorts of board game design, specifically design related things. There's tons of designer content if you want to learn. If you're an aspiring designer, that's definitely one of the sites to check out. And then every year they do this competition, and anybody around the world can submit games, and they have hundreds and hundreds of games submitted every year, and it goes through sort of like an initial I think they have a panel of like 30 judges, and
Mhm.
there's tons of people in that you might know already in that judge, other designers that are successful, and other people involved in different publishing companies, etc. And they go through an initial phase where they look at like your pitch sheet or your pitch video or whatever, and then they kind
Mhm.
of like boil it down to like, these are the 10 finalists or 15 finalists or whatever,
Mhm.
and then all of the actual like multiple plays starts happening. And even if you don't come out as a finalist or a winner, you still get feedback on your
Mhm.
game from all
Right.
these people who are kind enough to give their time and energy to do that. And man, it's just an awesome thing.
Is it all
It's a
online?
during the pandemic, because of the quarantine, they had what they called the online track, I think it was called, and then the in-person track. So they
Okay.
had you could submit digitally, like Tabletop Simulator,
TDS. Yeah.
which is what the Perfect Wave was, and then you could send in an actual physical prototype. And now that we don't have the quarantine anymore, they're just back to physical prototypes
Right.
only. So
And
yeah.
as we come in, I'm just wondering, when you won that, so you won the
Hmm.
Cardboard Edison, when you pitched to the op, was that like a big stamp on the top? You're like, hey, do you want this game? By the way, it won this award. Like, how did that?
It was actually the opposite.
Okay.
We weren't even. I. It was like as soon as the winners were announced, I immediately had some publishers reach out
Okay.
and express interest in the game, and one of them was Tony from the
Yeah.
op, and he was just like, "Hey, interested." And I, it's been a while now, so I don't quite remember, but I'm sure that we immediately, jumped on Tabletop Simulator and played through the mod that I created,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like, boom, we love it and we want it.
Right on.
So, I mean, we got lucky, it's a lot of effort to design a game and pitch to publishers, and be the one in 10,000 that gets signed and published. And it all kind of snowballed for us really fast. Designed the game, it won. Hey, we're interested. Boom.
Very cool.
It's like that doesn't happen. So
Storybooks. It's a storybook ending.
yeah, thankful for all of that. Yeah.
Right on. Well, as we wrap up, this has been fantastic. I've had a blast learning more about you and your gaming and creativity and stuff like that. And I'm excited to see what else you come down with down the line.
Thank you.
Perfect Wave. If you haven't, I can't say anything about the big score because I haven't played it, but I have played the perfect ways. F is behind me. And so if you want light card game that has some crunchy choices, it's got nice aesthetic. If you're into surfing, it's kind of like a no-brainer, I would think. I'm landlocked as well, so I've never been surfing, and that's just not going to happen ever. But yeah, check out the Perfect Wave, and check out Jason's work on BGG. You can check out obviously the big scores. There's a page and stuff. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to chat about
it's my pleasure.
games and how you got your ideas from just ideas into games that we love to play. And so thanks so much for taking the time. Yeah, I believe that.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Community is built on conversation, much like games are built on ideas. So until next time, my name is Brent. Grab your umbrella. The forecast is cloudy with a chance of meatballs.